stavamo James, faccio vedere qua che tappa fotografare. Viene dal Michigan. Eh sì.
Scusa, scusi.
En Milán creo los compraste así.
No,
¿En Florencia también?
What's going on? Today's trip, we're going up onto the Temple Mount to visit the Temple Mount, the holiest site for the Jewish people. In addition, it is holy. The Muslims also believe it's the third holiest site for them. So come with me as we go up onto the Temple Mount. Here to my left, down below, we have the prayer section of the Western Wall. The Western Wall. Boker Tov. Boker Tov. Boker Tov. Welcome to the Temple Mount. Okay, the Temple Mount is open. It's only open, for tourists. More specifically, it's only open for non-Muslims, Jews, Christians, people of other faiths. It's only open for them specific days of the week and specific hours of those days. In the morning, it's only open from 7:30 until, I'm not sure, 10:30 or maybe 11 o'clock. The rest of the time is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the Muslims. This is an agreement that is being reached by successive Israeli governments with the Muslim Waqf. The Muslim Waqf is the Muslim organization that controls the Temple Mount under, theoretically, the authority of King Abdullah of Jordan. Anyways, we're now on the Temple Mount, and behind me we have the Al-Aqsa Mosque. You can see it in all its glory. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is at the southern end of the Temple Mount. The Al-Aqsa Mosque means the farthest mosque. In this case, the meaning is that it is the farthest mosque from Mecca. The Muslim story, the Muslim tradition is that Muhammad makes a night journey. He makes a night journey from Mecca to the farthest mosque, where he meets Moses, and he rises up to heaven, where he's given the rules for this new religion. And that is the importance of Jerusalem, specifically the Temple Mount and the Al-Aqsa Mosque for Muslims. Unfortunately, we can't go inside and visit it. It is, like the other holy sites on the Temple Mount, it is only open for Muslims. Let's go on and see a few more things.
Bismillah. Bismillah.
We've arrived at our next station, for lack of a better word. These stairs here to my left, in front of you, these lead down into what is known by the Muslims as the El Marwan, I'm probably pronouncing it incorrectly, lead down into the what the Muslims refer to as the El Marwan Mosque. This is a huge mosque that is being built below the upper level of the Temple Mount, in what is referred to by archaeologists and historians as Solomon's Temple. It has nothing to do with Solomon, of course. This whole southern area, we're at the southern end of the Temple Mount, this whole southern area was built by King Herod 2,000 years ago. He extended the Temple Mount to the south, and he built underneath the top level, he built huge rooms which supported the floor, the top of the Temple Mount, with huge arches. Unfortunately, we can't go in and see it. The only people who can go inside to this present-day mosque are Muslims. Non-Muslims, unfortunately, cannot go and visit it. It was built under great controversy. The Muslims came in, brought in bulldozers, removed huge amounts of dirt and rubble, a lot of it being archaeological finds. In Israel, we're only allowed to build if we do an archaeological survey. Unfortunately, an archaeological survey was not done here at the El Marwan Mosque. Again, what is referred to by most, if not the majority of archaeologists and historians, as Solomon's stables. Again, having nothing to do with Solomon. Come, let's continue on. Here we have in front of us, we have the eastern wall of both the Temple Mount and the eastern wall of Jerusalem. On the other side of it is the Kidron Valley and the Mount of Olives. For more information about that, of course, you can look at my recent video, Walking Around the Walls of Jerusalem, in which we walked around on the other side, the eastern side, the outside side of this wall. We've arrived at something else very interesting. According to the law in Israel, it is somewhat difficult to pray unless you're a Muslim, adherent of the Muslim law, to pray up on the Temple Mount. But this is a spot that has been given, I think, by both the police and reluctantly by the Muslim Waqf. Jews are allowed to pray here. You can see that we have religious Jews here praying towards the Dome of the Rock, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Boker Tov. בוקר טוב. בסדר, מה שלומכם? בוקר טוב. Not sure what was going on there. בוקר טוב. We've arrived at our next station. This is the inside of the Golden Gate, or the Gate of Mercy, which again, I remind you, we visited it from the other side, from the outside on my walk, the walk that we did around the walls of Jerusalem. So if you want to see it from that side, please look at that video. So again, this is Golden Gate, or the Gate of Mercy, where according to the Jewish tradition, the Messiah is supposed to enter Jerusalem. You can see in front of us, we have the Dome of the Rock. Admittedly, one of the most beautiful buildings in Jerusalem, maybe even in the world. The Dome of the Rock, as I said before, represents the spot where, according to tradition, Muhammad rose up to heaven after meeting Moses, and where he received from God the rules for this new religion. It is also the spot, according to history, according to Jewish tradition, where Abraham was supposed to sacrifice Isaac, the binding of Isaac. And it is also the spot where the two temples stood. Solomon's temple, which was built 2,000 years ago by King Solomon, and later on the second temple, which was rebuilt, enlarged by King Herod about 2,000 years ago, which was destroyed by the Romans in the year 70. This building, the Dome of the Rock, the Golden Dome of the Rock, was built by the Muslims in the 7th century. They built it, I will tell you quite confidently, they built it because they understood the importance of this spot to Judaism, and so they said it will also be important to us. It was built, it's the same building that was built back in the 7th century. It's been renovated a couple of times. The last major renovation was in the 90s when King Hussein of Jordan placed this golden dome on top of it. Prior to that, the dome had been a bronze dome, and he replaced it with a golden dome in order to show the world that it belongs to him. Today, the Muslim Waqf, the Muslim religious trust that controls the site is theoretically controlled by King Hussein's son, King Abdullah of Jordan. The two most important spots in Islam, Mecca and Medina, of course, are controlled by the Saudis, essentially the rivals of King Abdullah of Jordan, of the Hashemite kingdom. Unfortunately, this building, we can also not enter it. It is only open to Muslims. It is not open to visit by members of other faiths. Okay, I'd like to show you one other thing before we finish our visit, very quick visit to the Temple Mount. Here to my left, in front of you, we have the grave of the great-great-grandfather, or I may be missing one great, the grave of the great-great-great-grandfather of the present King of Jordan, King Abdullah. This is the grave of King Hussein. King Hussein was the last Sharif of Mecca who thought that he was going to get back in the 1930s, who thought that he was going to get the whole of the Middle East and turn it into a large Muslim Arab state. Unfortunately, because of diplomacy, British, French interests, this didn't happen. He had 5 sons. 2 of his sons were given smaller kingdoms. One of them became the first king of Transjordan, the great-great-grandfather, King Abdullah, of the present-day King Abdullah. And the other son became the ill-fated king of Iraq. The kingdom of Iraq didn't last. So again, this is the tomb of the grave of King Hussein, the great-great, maybe another great-grandfather of King Abdullah of Jordan. Okay, we're going to leave now the Temple Mount, and we'll probably sit down and have something to drink, maybe something to eat. That will probably be the next video. So please join me in my next video for some food and for some drink. We're going to be leaving through what is referred to as the chain gate. This is a one-way gate. We can leave, we can't come back in it. As I said earlier, Muslims can come and go through this gate, and many of the other gates on the Temple Mount, we can only leave through this gate. It's referred to as the chain gate, because there is a Muslim tradition that once upon a time there was a chain hanging from this gate, and it was used in questions of justice. Somebody who came to the courts and complained, he was asked if he could touch the gate, if he could touch the chain, and if he could touch the chain, then he was recognized as being correct, as not being guilty. If he couldn't touch the chain, then he was guilty. So that is the chain gate. This is where we're going to be leaving the Temple Mount from. Anyways, as usual, like and subscribe. Boker Tov. Boker Tov. Boker Tov.